Hey Huskies, Mr. Chocolate here, and the presentation you're about to watch is from our January 2021 Senior Sessions series entitled Community College Opportunities, Differences, and Transferring. This was given live via Zoom on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. The presentation goes over different aspects of attending a community college. We have a short interview with our counseling intern, Mr. Figueroa, who went to community college, then transferred to an out-of-state four-year school, and is currently in grad school, and end up with a great question from one of the students that was participating. So please watch all the way until the end. I apologize for the error in recording. You will see some of the camera boxes off to the side, hopefully not blocking too much of the information, but it's definitely worth listening to, and hopefully it's not too distracting. Of course, if you have any questions about community college and how it might work for your future plans, please let me know. Once again, thank you for coming to our senior session about community college. And what I want to start out by saying is what community college is not. It's not 13th grade. It's not high school 2.0. Again, it's not for stupid people or people who couldn't get into a four-year school, so you didn't have any other choices. You had to go to Harper or wherever. It's not just for poor people, and it's not necessarily easy, okay? These are oftentimes bad characterizations of a community college, and some people won't even consider the community college because this is the first thing that comes to their mind. And that's a shame because community college is not only not these things, but it's so many more for so many different types of reasons, for so many different types of people. So if you came in thinking these things, or if your parent is thinking these things, or if you're like, well, I really wanted to go to community college, but my friends are saying these things, just try to block that out and listen to what the purpose of community college is for. Community college is the most common type of two-year college in the country. These colleges offer many types of programs that lead to associate degrees or certificates. Certificates and some types of associates focus on career readiness. So maybe you have no plan at all to go to a four-year school. Maybe you just want to get a certain career certificate or certain education for a specific career, and that's it. And that's totally fine and what community college is for. And other people or other types of associate degrees are going to be good preparation to then transfer to that four-year school where you're going to go on to earn your bachelor's degree. So not everybody who goes to a two-year school is going to go on to the four-year school. Not everybody who goes to Harper, let's say, is going to get an associate's degree first. Sometimes you just take certain classes and then when you're ready to go, you go. It's all about what you need, from that school and why you decided to go there in the first place. So again, an associate degree is a two-year college degree. And they're normally earned with about 60 college credits. And these include general education courses, electives, and you do pick a major. You do decide if you want to major in business or education or psychology. So you kind of have to have somewhat of an idea, but a lot of the classes you take are going to be those gen ed classes. And you're only going to get so far, as we'll talk about, with those electives. Sorry, I just got to think that my internet was unstable. Most associate degrees are completed in 2 years. I just got an email the other day from a Hersey grad class of 2020, and she said she's at Harper, but because of all her AP and dual credit classes, she's going to get her associate just in this 1 year. She's already going to be done with it. She's already ready to transfer to the four-year school. She saved a whole year of community college, of college in general too, by all the stuff she had at high school. So depends on what you're coming in with. It depends on how many classes you take while you're there. But typically the associate degree is about 2 years if you take a full-time in fall and spring semesters. These are just some examples of associate's degrees that you might work towards. Now, some of these, you're only going to get so far career-wise with them. An associate degree in accounting is not going to be enough to sit for your CPA exam and become a certified accountant per se. Nursing, you can get your registered nurse, but the more bachelor's degree opens up more job opportunities. Education, you cannot be a teacher in a public school in Illinois with just an associate's degree. So there are different limitations to the associate degrees, but again, you can start working in these fields and build those classes, those credits towards that bachelor's degree if you so choose. A certificate program is more specialized. It really helps your knowledge in one area. You can finish these things anywhere from 2 to 4 semesters. So again, if you are looking maybe to go more to the workforce, you don't want to take all those gen ed classes again, you're done with math, you're done with English, you just really want to focus on welding or construction or HVAC or something like that, you can get different certificates and just focus on those classes and not have to go through all the gen ed classes again. A lot of times these classes won't transfer to a 4-year school, but they're going to help you in your job search and so on. And these are some examples of certificate programs that you might look into, whether it's, again, trade related stuff, whether it's culinary. There's different things, again, you can do. So each community college has different things. One thing to keep in mind, if that's your local community college, which I think it probably is for most, if not all of us here at Hersey, if Harper does not have a certificate program or a associate program in a certain career field you want, typically you can go to another community college and still pay the Harper rate because Harper doesn't have it. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you're like, oh, Harper doesn't have, automotives, which they don't. Our students usually go to Triton or Oakton for that. More than 40% of US undergraduate students attend community colleges, and it's the students usually right out of high school, 18 to 24, that make up the largest group, but it could be anybody, working adults, retirees, people who just want to learn. I ended up taking actually 3 classes at Harper after I graduated college while I was getting my master's to be a teacher, because part of my certification I was a business teacher, was to teach. I could have got an extra endorsement in what they called word processing, is basically like typing. I don't think we really offer those classes anymore, but I just needed 3 classes in a related computer type class. And the cheapest and fastest way was to go to Harper and take those classes. So I took my first classes at Harper when I was already graduated from college, but working on my master's and my certification. So there could be people going to Harper for or community college, Harper for any reason at all different age groups. But the people who are going usually full-time during the day, working on those associate degrees are, right out of high school. This is just a map to show you that community college is not an uncommon thing. There are lots of schools, of course, in our area. Here's Harper. There are tons of colleges around. So if, again, Harper is not something that a place you want to go, or they don't have your program, maybe you're going to move after you graduate to live with a different parent or relative or something, there are plenty of options in this area as well. There are even community college or 2-year schools that are connected to other 4-year schools. The whole University of Wisconsin public college system is connected. Each main 4-year campus has 1, 2, or even possibly 3 2-year schools that are connected to it. Now, it's going to be a little bit more money to do that than to go to community college where you live, but that's another way to kind of make sure your classes transfer right in and maybe possibly move away from home or something like that. So definitely keep that in mind. So what are the benefits? I've kind of alluded to a few of these. Of course, the cost of tuition is much, much lower. You're talking, if you go full-time, 5 classes per semester for the 2 semesters, somewhere $5,000–6,000. You don't have to pay room and board because there's nowhere to live in most cases on campus. So the tuition is much, much lower. You're talking a few $100s a credit hour versus a few $1,000s possibly a credit hour. Flexible schedule. You can take Of course, now it's a little different if classes are all online, but in a normal time, you've got morning classes, afternoon, evening, weekends, online. There's so many different times, or options you can do your classes. You can still work. You can still do different things because there's just so many choices of classes to take. It gives you an opportunity to explore your options. If you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, if you're not sure you're ready for a four-year college, if you're not sure you're ready to move away from home, that goes along with the transitional piece. This is a good way to kind of explore some areas at a lower cost and not make, several huge life-changing decisions all at once. You still stay at home, you're still in this area, but you can explore some things. Some of the community colleges have partnerships with four-year schools. For instance, Harper has an engineering pathway with U of I. So if you either didn't get into U of I engineering right away, or you're just not ready to go there yet, you can apply for some of these pathway programs, and you can get advising, you can get support, and then you can get guaranteed admission to that four-year school when you're done. So a lot of great ways to get into four-year schools with extra support. There can be smaller classes. You're not going to a big 10 university with 30, 40,000 people. Most of the classes are going to be a little bit smaller. And again, it's transitional. So if you're not quite ready to make that transition to complete four-year school away from home, all that, you can take this step first, see how that goes, and then move on to the next phase. So I'm going to play this really quick video from Ms. Lee here, the Director of Student Outreach at San Francisco, who is just going to emphasize again what the benefit is of starting at a two-year college. If you can't hear the sound, somebody let me know.
People do use the community college as a stepping stone to the four-year school. It's a wonderful option, and especially if students who are not eligible out of high school, this is a very viable option. So I'm a strong proponent of go to college. And if you can't get to a four-year school right out of high school, go to the community college because they have a...
Oh, sorry.
People do use the community college as a stepping stone to the four-year school. It's a wonderful option, and especially if students who are not eligible out of high school, this is a very viable option. So I'm a strong proponent of go to college. And if you can't get to a four-year school right out of high school, go to the community college because they have a transfer function. And the students who go to the community college for the first 2 years are taking the same kinds of courses that students who are at the 4 year. Students can use the first 2 years, the freshman, sophomore years at the community college to find themselves at a lower price, to find themselves to take the same equivalent courses, to change their majors, to kind of discover new majors. Those kinds of things are wonderful advantages of the community college. When you get a bachelor's degree, it is a bachelor's degree on a diploma from a four-year school. And it doesn't say transferred from a community college to this 4-year.
So yeah, I think that's a great point to end on as well, or to end the video on as well, is that if you have your heart set on a certain four-year school and it's not going to work right away because of grades or money or whatever, don't feel like going the community college route first and then there is going to make you that degree any less important or prestigious or whatever you want to call it. It is still going to stay that degree, but again, you got it maybe cheaper or just in a different way. So how can community college again help me decide what I want to do with my life? Again, you can explore different subjects before committing to a whole program. Some four-year schools, you have to be admitted to that major directly out of high school. It's called direct admit. And if you're not admitted right out of high school, it's super hard to you can never get into that major at that school, or you have to go in with something more general and then try to get into it later. And that's a big risk because what if you don't get into that major? Then you can't major in that subject. And then what are you going to do? You either have to change your major or you're going to have to end up transferring again anyway. You can take a wide range of courses, at the community college, including liberal arts or career-oriented. not all four-year schools have that wide range of choices. So you can kind of figure out what you want to do. And a lot of them have counseling that can really help you assist you and help you assess your ability, interest in education options. So community colleges do have career advisors. They do have academic advisors. They do have counselors, like social emotional counselors. They have all of these people like we have in high school, like the four-year school. They have all those people as well. And it's going to be part of your tuition, and it's going to be somebody who can help you kind of figure out maybe what your next steps are. There are some differences, or sometimes, again, drawbacks isn't the best word, but some things to keep in mind. It's not all the same. It's definitely not the same experience. There are some things to think about. Limited curriculum. Again, you can only go so far in a certain major before you will have to go to a four-year school. So if you're really interested in marketing, you can take, maybe the intro class, maybe one other class, but at that point, they're not going to have those upper level classes. So you're going to have to then go to a four-year school at some point if you really want to go into that. Like I said, accounting, you might take a few things, but if you want to be an accountant, it's not going to have all the classes you need for that. Lighter workload, sometimes it kind of depends on how you approach it or what classes you take. Some people think that, and so the people going back to may not take school as seriously. You might be in classes with people who are like, whatever, this is like not really where I want to be, or this isn't that big of a deal, or it's so cheap, I don't really care. And you may have some bad influences around you. Depending on the campus, there could be uninvolved students. Campus life is going to be different than if you went to a school where everybody lived there. As we mentioned, everybody's commuting to the school. So if you want to be involved in sports and clubs, you have to take it upon yourself to stay there, after class, all day without a dorm to go back to. So some students will do that and be great. Other students are like, whatever. So it could have a different feel. Located in your hometown or same area, nothing wrong with your hometown or the area. I don't want you to take it that way, but sometimes people get drawn back into old habits, or, parents don't realize that you're now in college, that you're paying for classes sometimes. And so if they say, just, where are you going? Or you don't need to go to class, or why are you there? Like it could be hard to kind of venture into this next phase of your life sometimes if you're still kind of hanging around the same people or in the same house in the same area that you're used to. Again, doesn't mean you can't be successful, but I've known I knew students at my previous school who would tell me, who went to the community college there, that they would be at the community college waiting for their next class to start, and a bunch of their friends from high school who weren't enrolled in that college would just come to the school and just to hang out. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, why are you even there? So it could be tough to break some of those old habits, I guess. Transferring credits, which we'll talk about, is tough sometimes, to make sure you're taking the right courses and making sure they're going to transfer to the school that you want to go to. So if you're deciding between a 2 and a 4-year school, then you don't have, if you go straight to a 4-year, you don't have to worry about transferring. And loss of scholarship opportunity. So what does this mean? This means that a lot of, or probably I would say a majority 4-year colleges are going to offer the greatest amount of merit-based scholarships to students that are straight out of high school. The incoming freshman scholarships and awards are going to be higher than the transfer ones. So if you are a high achieving student and you apply to some 4-year schools and they offer you X amount of money per year for the 4 years, if you say, you know what, I'm going to go to community college first and then transfer later, they may not offer you that much money those next 2 years. They could, and if you're not getting offered that money out of high school, then it would be a benefit to go to community college, get your grades, starting new and then get scholarships later. But for high achieving high school students, you could be losing some scholarships that are only given to, incoming college freshmen by transferring. So what I would suggest is plan out the cost over the 4 years. If cost is the main reason why you're choosing community college, plan out what would it be 2 years at the community college, and then estimate what it would be 2 years at the school 4-year school you want to go to. versus how much would it be going to that four-year school all 4 years, and see if it's actually saving you money or where you're at. So I hope that makes sense. This is a video I'm going to skip, but basically it just kind of compares community college and universities. But I think you all know that. I can share it with you later if you're really interested. Okay, so is your plan community college? If the plan is to go there and transfer, whether it's for 2 years or however long it takes you till you're ready to transfer, it is extremely important to work with an academic advisor to make sure your classes will transfer. Okay, so sit down with, let's say, the Harper advisor. If you know where you want to transfer to, get in touch with a transfer or admissions advisor from that four-year school and make sure the classes you're taking will be accepted there and are part of the degree you might want to go into. Find out from that four-year school, what are their requirements? What GPA do you need? Is there a maximum number of credits you can transfer in? When can you transfer? Does it have to only be in the fall, or can you come in the spring or summer? Figure out all that so you can plan accordingly. Previous in my life to being a high school counselor, I worked as an academic advisor at DePaul University. I'm going to stop this sharing in a second. I would work with students to make sure that that number one, if they were going to take any classes at a community college, that they and they wanted to transfer them back to DePaul, that they were going to work. They didn't go over their limit, that they didn't take it too late in their career, that it fulfilled one of their graduation requirements. Students would say, oh, I'm going to take a zoology lab at my community college, and I would say, you don't need this lab, or that lab doesn't fulfill the right science requirement. So it's very important to work with an advisor. What I also did was orientation for students who had been at a two-year school and then were transferring to DePaul. And there was a limit on how many they could transfer. And there's certain classes. I worked in the College of Business, so there were certain math, certain management, certain accounting classes, and English classes that they needed to take. You could tell the students that had worked with an advisor, took all the right classes, everything lined up perfectly. They were right at their maximum number of credit hours they could transfer into, and it was smooth sailing. They did 2 years there. They had 2 years left. They did it perfectly. Then you could see the students who either didn't know they wanted to go to DePaul or changed their mind too many times, and they had so many extra classes. They didn't have anywhere close to the right level of math yet, or they took classes that weren't transferable, and they had all these extra credits that didn't help them at all towards their bachelor's degree. And I remember a couple of cases where we would say to students, you're so far behind in math that you need this math before this one, before this one, before this one, before you can take your first finance class and so on. It's going to be more than 2 years. It's going to be at least 3 or more to get your, let's say, finance major at DePaul, because none of your classes you're bringing in count towards your degree. And it was really sad because those students really wanted to go there, but they're like, I don't want to spend, I was supposed to be 2 and 2. Now it's 2 and 3, 2 and 4. And so in some cases they said, maybe I'll find another college that's not so picky or whatever. So really, really important. I've seen firsthand students who seem to not have really worked with an advisor and picked the right classes, and it's not good. So just all I can say is please meet with an advisor. Okay, are we back? Can we see the PowerPoint again?
Yep.
Okay, here's a couple other quick videos about planning to transfer.
Preparing for transfer begins on the first day that the student begins at a community college. In fact, it begins in high school. What high school students forget is that community college is college. They have important standards that they have to meet. Because they have this transition coming up in 2 years or 3 years, whatever it might be, is to begin planning, however tentative, what they're going to do. So they might say, well, I don't know what I want to major in. That's fine. Then start taking some general education courses. Even if a student has a tentative plan, when they begin at a community college, their chances of actually making progress and then making that transition to the four-year institution are much greater. The real problem I see with many students in community colleges is they wander. They take a course here, they take a course there, they go part-time. and they don't really focus on any goal. And I think it's most critical that even at the beginning, and even if it's tentative, that they focus on a goal at the very beginning.
One of the things I recommend you look at and you do as you begin that process is to identify the pathways that you might want to take to an eventual four-year school. And one of the best things that you can look at is the community college's articulation or agreements that they have set up with four-year universities to make that process as seamless as possible. One of the things you find is that in the articulation agreements, it provides opportunities for students to take courses at the community college that they are currently at, and then they have complete confidence that those courses are going to transfer to the four-year institution. So if they're at the community college for 2 years, they complete an associate degree program, then they're able to go to the four-year institution in junior year standing, and they have 2 years to complete their education. One of the things
Okay, so I know a lot of questions about then how do I actually do this? So this is a nice video that kind of runs down step 1, step 2, step 3. You could tell it's old because you're going to see them filling out paper applications where now everything's online, but the stuff is exactly the same. So I'm going to play this and then kind of highlight a few things afterwards.
How to transfer from community college to a four-year university. Starting at a community college before going to a four-year school makes good financial sense because the tuition is generally much lower. Keep a few things in mind if you want to make a switch. You will need credits from a community college and an idea of where you want to transfer. Step 1. Investigate the policies of four-year schools you'd like to attend. Some universities accept all transfer credits from accredited community colleges, while others will only take certain courses, and a few don't accept transfer credits at all. Make sure your community college is accredited. Universities only take credits from schools formally recognized by a regional, national, or professional agency. Verify this information at ope.ed.gov/accreditation. Step 2. Talk to your advisor and a career counselor at your community college. They can make the process go more smoothly by providing a recommendation and explaining the details to you. Step 3. If you don't know where you want to transfer when you start, make sure to sign up for courses at your community college that are likely to transfer for credit. For instance, nearly every university will take credits from English composition, lab sciences, and non-remedial math classes. Step 4. Even if you haven't declared a major yet, narrow your interest to one field and take related courses. It will demonstrate to universities that you're focused. Step 5. Keep your grades up. You'll need them to transfer to your university of choice. Some state schools offer guaranteed admission to students with high grade point averages from certain community colleges. Step 6. Contact the admissions offices of the schools you'd like to attend for information and ask them exactly what you need to do to be considered. Step 7. Check out all your options for loans, grants, and scholarships. Talk with the financial aid offices at the colleges you are seriously considering. Also, look online. Type in financial aid, your state, and the university into a search engine, or head to fafsa.ed.gov for federal aid options. Step 8. When you have enough credits, apply for your transfer. All schools have different admission requirements and deadlines, but you'll likely have to fill out an application, provide copies of your high school and college transcripts, and submit recommendations. Have your advisor look over everything before sending it off. Good luck.
Okay, so that was a lot quickly, but I think it's I think it broke it down really nicely and short and sweet. So just to re-emphasize a few things, the four-year college you're going to apply to is going to look at the courses you took and the grades you earned at your two-year college and decide how much credit to give you. First, they're going to decide if they want to admit you or not. If you have, usually when you're over a certain number of college credits, they don't need your high school stuff anymore, including SAT or ACT scores. So if you go to community college for, a year and a half, you've got 30, 40, 50 or more credits, they're just looking at your community college record. If you just go to the community college for a semester or two, they may want to see your high school stuff still. So just kind of keep that in mind. But once you're admitted, then of course, they're going to take a look at those college credits and figure out if they're going to give you credit, how much credit they're going to give you, and then how it's going to apply. So if you're going by semester hours, typically you need 120 semester hours to earn your bachelor's degree. Most colleges won't let you transfer in, again, more than 60 or so of those, because that, like they mentioned earlier, that degree is, your diploma is going to have that 4-year school. So you have to have at least half your classes at that 4-year school. You know, you can't just take up like 90% at the community college, 5 classes there, and get a degree from there. You can use tools. You can work with your advisor, but on your own, you could look at transferology.com. Or if you're going to go to a 4-year school in Illinois, there's something called the Illinois Articulation Initiative, or II. You can go to itransfer.org. You can put in, here's this class at Harper. How does it transfer to U of I or Eastern or DePaul or whatever? And if you get an associate's degree in Illinois, you can take that associate's degree to any 4-year college, public or private, in Illinois, and it will automatically fulfill your gen ed requirements through this Illinois Articulation Initiative. So that's one benefit to actually completing the associate's degree, is that it automatically will check off certain requirements at that 4-year school. Otherwise, they have to kind of do it individually in class by class. You know, one thing I've done with students is just Google that college, say like, you know, University of Illinois transfer guide, DePaul University transfer guide, and then you'll usually find some kind of chart you can put in, again, to community college and then that school. Of course, every university has not reviewed every class from every community college. So there may be a time where you need to submit a syllabus or a course description or something like that. But that's why it's important, again, speak to your advisor and so they can help you through that process. Okay. If you're planning to go 2 years, then 2 years and enough courses transfer, you'll start at that 4-year college as a junior. If you don't get credit for some of your classes for whatever reason, you may need to take them again, or they just may not be applicable. You'll have to do something different. And as mentioned earlier, when you graduate from that 4-year college, only that 4-year college's name will be on your degree, on your diploma. It won't say via Harper or anything like that. So before we get to questions, I'm going to ask Mr. Figueroa if he will share his experience as somebody who went to a community college and then transferred to a 4-year school. And so he can tell you what it was like for him, the hardest part, the easiest part, if he would do it all again, if he had to. So Mr. Figueroa.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Like you said, my name is Mr. Figueroa. I'm Mrs. Deppin's counseling intern this year. I'm currently working towards my master's degree in school counseling. But just to rewind a little bit, I did go to community college. I got my associate's degree in arts and then transferred, and I was there for 2 years. And then I transferred to Winona State University in Winona, Minnesota. And I love that Mr. Shackles started this whole presentation with what community college is not, because I feel like community college has a lot of negative stigma around it. And, you know, a lot of people say it's like 13th grade and high school 2.0. And I feel like it feels that way because you're still living in the area and you don't go away like a lot of people do. So I completely understand why it would feel that way, but it's still college. It's still college nonetheless. Well, and also, like he said, some people say that community colleges is for people who don't get into a 4-year university, which cannot be any further from the truth. I actually got accepted and, or I applied and got accepted to a bunch of universities my senior year of high school. But for various reasons, I decided to stay back and go to community college. So there could just be so many different reasons why community college is beneficial to you. For me, it was mostly the cost. Just to disclose a little bit about my situation, I am a DACA recipient. And for those of you who don't know what DACA is, it's a program that gives childhood arrivals who came here as children or as immigrant children. So I moved here from Central America when I was just 5 years old. So it gives me like protected legal status. And because of that, because of being a DACA recipient, I wasn't eligible for various financial aid or certain scholarships and stuff like that. So financially, it was a better decision for me to go to community college rather than going to a four-year university right out of high school. Yeah, so that's really the gist of it. Mr. Chakalas, do you have any specific questions?
Can you just maybe talk about like the transfer and credit part? Because I think that might be the part that scares some students. So you you went to the community college, you decided, okay, I'm almost done, I'm going to apply to these different schools. And then how did you get those credits to count at Winona State?
So I consulted a lot with the with my advisor at my community college, but I also contacted the advisor at or an advisor at Winona. And I think in my situation, it helped that I knew that I was going to Winona. So that helped me plan my transfer or transferring my credits a lot better. You know, I use transferology.com. And for those of you who don't know what that is, and he kind of just explained that, but transferology.com is a website that helps you put in courses from like your community college to see what the equivalent is at your four-year university that you're planning to transfer, just to see if it would transfer. So I use that website a lot, and I really didn't have any issues with my credits transferring. I think there was only like one or two courses that I had to retake at Winona State because they were very specific to Winona State.
Great, thank you. With that said, does anybody have any questions for myself, for Mr. Figueroa about his experience? If you want to either unmute yourself, I think you should be able to now, or type it into the chat.
So I was gonna plan on going to Harper for 2 years and transfer out to UIC through the TAG program, which works for the biology major. And I was gonna, after getting my bachelor's, I was gonna go to DPT program after my bachelor's degree for graduate school. I was wondering if going to community college affects like the admission process for like grad school. Basically, like would I be like held back, or like would it be like a drawback to get into DPT school if I go to community college?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you are just going to, you know, if you're going to apply to graduate school after you graduate with your bachelor's degree, then absolutely not. I mean, Mr. Figueroa is in graduate school right now, as mentioned, and so it didn't affect him. He got in, and again, it doesn't matter. The only thing I would say is there are some programs that are like bachelor, masters, or they're all like connected that you would possibly have to get into out of high school, because it's all like one big long 5, 6, 7 year program that you wouldn't be able to go to a community college first. But if you're just talking about, oh, I'm going to go to law school after I get my bachelor's, or I'm going to apply to med school or this school or that, then it definitely doesn't matter. They're going to look at your bachelor's degree transcript. They're going to see all the classes, you know, on there, how well you did. Again, it's all college. They're all college courses. And another reason to go to community college first in this situation is you're going to be paying a lot of money to go to the grad school, as well, possibly. So if you can save money on the bachelor's degree end, then that would make 100% sense to me. Save your money now and keep it for graduate school down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? One thing that if you're still thinking of questions, definitely let me know or type them in. One thing that I don't know if I said, very clearly enough is that you don't have to use community college as like your full-time school for the next couple of years. You can go to basically any college for the most part. There are some exceptions. There are some schools that won't accept transfer credit once you're there. But like I said, when at DePaul, where I went and where I worked, students would come back home for the summer and they would go to their local community college. They would take some classes. It would be cheaper. It would be faster. Maybe they didn't want to take that at DePaul for whatever reason. It didn't fit in their schedule, so on and so forth. And then they would transfer it back in order to get their degree going, quicker. So you can use the community college for that as well. So I know students every year, their plan is I'm going to a 4-year school for sure, but I'm still going to apply to Harper. Like right now, I'm still going to send in my high school transcripts. I'm still going to do all these things because maybe this summer you want to take some classes. Maybe if you might have heard here or there the talk about remedial classes not transferring. If you, especially in math, are below college level for math, those classes are not going to transfer and they're not going to count towards even your associate's degree usually. So if you don't want to go to a 4-year school and pay the 4-year dollars to take classes that aren't going to count towards your degree. So definitely, if you're behind in a certain area based on placement testing, go to the community college and try to take those remedial classes to get back up to speed or whatever you need to be, and then that'll save your money as well. So that's just another way you can use the community college, again, to your benefit. Like I said, I used it even after I graduated for stuff. A lot of good reasons. For more frequent reminders, updates, resources, and more, please follow us on social media at Life After Hersey and subscribe to my YouTube page.